Thank you so much. I am so honored that the members of Moishe Kavod House asked me to be here tonight. It's a huge privilege for me. It's a huge privilege for me because my coming to know and appreciate Moishe Kavod came as part of my own journey as a Jewish activist, the journey that brought me here to Boston. Some of you know that I was raised in a traditional Orthodox home and spent 3 years in rabbinical seminary. And yet, in my 20s, I grew increasingly disconnected from organized Jewish life. I was disenfranchised and disheartened by what organizations were offering us. I stopped going to synagogue. I was experiencing a Jewish community that didn't work in partnership with other communities, that didn't pursue justice, and that wasn't making the space to be inclusive of me as a young man trying to come out, and the increasing diversity of my entire generation. And in the late 90s, a group of my friends decided to take responsibility for our own Jewish journey. And as part of that journey, about 10 years ago, we created an independent minyan in New York, where I grew up. Our entirely volunteer-led community is committed to inclusion, to celebrating life and rituals, and also to lifting up and interpreting anew the Jewish values we were raised with and which were important to us. And through my own volunteer leadership in that community, I came to meet Margie Klein and early leaders of the then Kavod House through an organization called Synagogue 3000. And in those spaces, we were able to learn together, to support each other, and to dream about the future of the global Jewish community. So it's a thrill to be here years later to celebrate Moishe Kavod and your role in what is now our shared community of Greater Boston. I just want to share a bit of history that guides my own thinking on this. There was a time when the Jewish community was at a precipice. Our people were confronting profound new challenges. We had to reevaluate our identity as separate from and also as part of a larger society. We had division and conflict amongst us. We were dealing with the fall of long-valued institutions and the ways of organizing our community. And in this moment, a moment that took decades, even centuries to unfold, a group of young people stepped forward and said, we must change so that we can thrive. We must hold true to what we treasure in our values and our practices while embracing new ways and reimagining our actions for a new era. We must not reject the old, but rather make it fresh again by studying and renewing the core truths of our Jewish people and celebrating them in our rituals and daily lives. We must find new ways to do Jewish together if we are to flourish as a people in a changing world. Those young people were the first rabbis. And in the first centuries of Christianity, in the first years after the fall of the temple, they reimagined Judaism and created something new, rooted in our past, taking us into a future they couldn't even begin to imagine. That's what we've done time and time again for 2,000 years. Whether it was the Hasidic masters of Eastern Europe lifting up spirituality, music, dance, and finding joy in connecting with the natural world as they went into the forests, or whether it was the 19th century young professionals in our East Coast cities who wanted a modern and united synagogue for a new nation and a new world, creating the Jewish Theological Seminary and the conservative movement, or the generation just before mine that embraced civil rights as a Jewish cause, created the student struggle for Soviet Jewry, and invented the Chabura. We have always, and we must always, reinvent ourselves so that we continue to be a vibrant Jewish community, familiar and different in the same breath, keeping our tradition and our civilization relevant to us and to the broader society we live in. This is what Moishe Kavod does so well. This is what we, as the Greater Boston Jewish community, values. And this is what inspired me to move here and be a part of this community. So just a few examples. We believe in the vital leadership of volunteers who want to learn, to grow, and to act from a sense of purpose in the world. Moishe Kavod's House Leadership Development Model helps create a next generation of Jewish leaders who feel a stake and ownership in the community, not just consuming programs, but acting and engaging as leaders who will contribute to the community for decades to come. We believe in a community that works together on issues of common concern and confronting the challenges of our time, all while strengthening all of our organizations. Moishe Kavod's Farm to Shul program, which provided the food that we've been enjoying tonight, partners with local synagogues. They designed a workshop on food justice that was utilized by congregations and Hebrew schools, and then partnered with those groups to host educational Tu B'Shvat Seders, joint rallies, CSAs, and to build support for an ethical purchasing campaign. And Moishe Kavod's sex ed team designed a curriculum on human sexuality and Judaism that they hope to share with our larger Jewish community. We believe in partnering with other communities to advance social justice and caring for all who live in our Commonwealth. Despite being a small community with no staff, Moishe Kavod regularly turns out strong participation in Greater Boston Interfaith Organization, GBIO, actions, and was one of the top congregations to move bank accounts in the recent Move Your Money campaign.
Yeah.
And their housing justice campaign has been working together with City Life, Vida Urbana, to help tenants at risk of losing their homes and building support for anti-foreclosure legislation. It's a mouthful. The Moishe Kavod community has strengthened the Greater Boston community, both Jewish and broadly. And in the years to come, there is just endless possibility as Moishe Kavod continues to shape and be an integral part of our shared vision of what our community is and what it does. We live in challenging times. Like so often before, we face questions of identity, how we belong, how we understand our own place as individuals and as a community. We face hard-fought internal debates and those who would divide us from each other and all of us from others. We face questions about how we act as Jews and as a community in a changing world. And we face a world that is challenged by poverty, by inequality, by phobias, where the promise of America is not yet complete for all who live here. And the community of Moishe Kavod are doing the only thing we can ask of them, the only thing we have demanded in every era from ourselves, to embrace the challenge, to take responsibility for our own Jewish journey and for community, to step up and not back, to understand and not ignore, to unite as a community rather than divide as individuals, to embrace thousands of years of tradition and make it relevant for our future, to dream and not despair. The only things that limit Moishe Kavod and all of us are our imagination and our commitment. So let's take this moment to recognize the volunteers whose imagination make Moishe Kavod House a success. Who here has volunteered at Moishe Kavod House in the past year? Let's give these young leaders And who here has volunteered to work on this celebration? And has this evening entirely volunteer credit? And let's invite the Moishe Kavod board members to be recognized and stand up and try to move forward a little bit. Jill Rocky, Nina Robinson, Regina Koch, Helen Bennett, Annie Fox, Aaron Gunning, Slil Schutz, Soft. The best way to appreciate what Moishe Kavod does is by participating in one of their actions, or just by taking the time to get to know them better. I want to close by asking all of us in the room to participate and to support this work. Coming around and on your tables is a commitment card that asks you to support the Young Jewish Social Justice at Moishe Kavod House by doing one of four things. You can meet with a member of the Farm to Shul team to explore ways that you can help make the food purchasing practices at your institution more just, ethical, and sustainable. You can bring a friend to a Shabbat service or to a Tikkun on Tap to learn about the community. You can meet with one of the Moishe Kavod leaders to hear about the community and give advice on our social justice work or building a local donor base. And of course, you can donate to Moishe House. Before you leave tonight, please make a commitment to support this important work and this amazing community with your time, your interest, and your financial support. Thank you again, and let's celebrate.
Woo!